If your rising junior has already tried test prep and it didn't work, most people will tell you they just didn't put in enough time. I personally don't think any of that is true. More hours of the wrong kind of prep doesn't move the needle for students, especially those with ADHD or a learning difference. It just confirms what they already believe about themselves, that they're not a test taker, that they're not smart enough, and that this test just isn't meant for their brain. None of that is true. In fact, the test prep they did just wasn't built for how their brain actually works. Hey there, if you're new here, my name is Presh, and I started Executive Function Tutors, where we coach students to feel more confident and less overwhelmed with school and the responsibilities that come with it. Today, I'm going to walk you through why traditional test prep tends to fail students with ADHD or learning differences, what actually works based on what I've seen with real students, and a week-by-week study guide you can share with your child to help them start this summer without it feeling like another thing they dread. Why traditional test prep fails students. When students start their SAT or ACT test prep, they often don't have a strong why yet. This means that the idea of being a high school junior hasn't fully landed yet. College still feels abstract, and without a personal reason to care about the score, the test prep feels pointless before it even starts. Your child can't build momentum around something they don't actually care about yet. The second reason why traditional test prep fails students is that the content volume feels so much. Students look at everything they're supposed to cover and their brain shuts down before they even open a single thing. That is not laziness. That is overwhelm. And overwhelm is an executive function response, not a character flaw. The third reason is a one-size-fits-all pacing. Traditional programs move at a fixed pace regardless of where the student actually is. For a student with ADHD, that mismatch kills momentum fast. When a student is constantly behind the pace, it stops feeling worth it to try. Fourth reason is that test anxiety is never addressed. Most prep programs treat test anxiety like a side issue. For students who experience test anxiety, it's essential to address it. If the emotional piece isn't accounted for, no amount of content review will stick on test day. And the fifth reason is honestly the most common thing I hear from students. It's just really boring. There's no connection to anything they care about, no room for how they actually learn, just drills and timers and more drills. And when a student already doesn't love school, that format doesn't exactly inspire them to open up their test prep book. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, okay, Presh, this all makes sense, but my child needs more than just understanding why test prep is hard. They need someone actually helping them build a study routine and improving their test-taking skills. Well, that's exactly what our SAT and ACT prep track is designed for. Here's what makes it different from traditional test prep. Before we do anything, we meet your student where they are. We start with three things. What do they already know about the exam? What feels most difficult or overwhelming to them right now? And from there, we co-create a routine together that they can actually commit to. Fully customized and nothing cookie cutter. Here's a real example of what that can look like. Imagine a student who has taken a practice SAT exam. They know their math score is low, but they've never actually looked at which question types trip them up. In our first session together, we will go through that diagnostic side by side. We identify two specific areas to focus on, and then we co-build a study routine per week around just those two things. Nothing else, no overwhelming content dump, just two things done consistently, owned by the student. And when we're not meeting, we are then checking in over text to see what's working well and what's challenging so they get more customized support. The link to our SAT or ACT track is in the description if you want to learn more. Now, let me give you the week-by-week guide that you can share directly with your child. This is based on what I've actually seen work with students with ADHD and learning differences. Before week one, build the why first. Before your child touches a single practice question, they need a personal reason to care about this score. A good reason isn't because college requires it. Instead, a good reason is something that belongs to your child. Think of a college they're actually curious about, a program they want to get into, or a score that opens a specific door to them, like scholarships. This takes one honest conversation, but it changes everything about how they show up for their test prep. And then I want you to do something that most test prep programs never do. I want you to normalize how big this feels for your child. These tests are a lot. The length, the content, the time commitment, all of those are real, and it's okay to say that out loud to your child. And then follow it with this. I believe in you to take this on. You're not doing this alone. Every single junior in your grade is navigating the same exact thing right now. That combination of honest acknowledgement plus your genuine belief in them goes further than any study schedule. Week 1, the diagnostic. This is the week your child takes their first practice test. But here's the key. They're not taking the whole thing at once, and they should only choose the SAT or the ACT, not both, because it can be a lot. For the SAT, ask them to download the College Board's free Blue Book app, also linked in the description. That's the same app they'll use on test day for the digital SAT, so getting comfortable with it now is a bonus. The SAT has 4 modules total, 2 for reading and writing, each about 30 minutes, and 2 for math, each about 35 minutes. To make it feel less overwhelming, your child can try 1 module per day, so they'll be done by day 4. For the ACT, ask them to download the free official practice test directly from act.org. The link is in the description. The enhanced ACT now has 3 required sections: English at 35 minutes, math at 50 minutes, and reading at 40 minutes. To make it feel less overwhelming, your child can try 1 section per day. For math, it's totally okay to take a short 5-minute break in the middle and then keep going. By day 3, they'll be done. When they're doing these modules, they should try to replicate the same conditions as the real test. This means no phones. By the end of the week, your child has a full picture of where they stand without it ever feeling like a 3-hour marathon. That alone is a huge win. Week 2, build a habit, then work on the lowest scored section. Before touching any content, the first thing to do in week 2 is to establish a weekly study routine. Same days, same time, same place, consistency before volume, that's the rule. Here's what each study session can look like in week 2 that you can also share with your child. For the first 5 minutes, pull up the section you scored lowest on, look at your score, try not to judge yourself or spiral. This is just data. Identify the question types that came up most in your errors. Next 10 minutes, pick 2 or 3 of those error questions and read through them slowly. Don't just check the right answer. Instead, read the explanation for why it's right and then ask yourself, why was this the right answer? This self-reflection is where the real learning happens. Next 20 minutes. For SAT students, click Practice Specific Questions on the Blue Book app. Then the app will automatically pull a set of questions targeting the exact skills you missed. And then work on those for 20 minutes. For ACT students, go back to the section you scored lowest on in the official practice test PDF and retake those questions for the next 20 minutes. Last 5 minutes. Write down one thing that felt clearer than last time. All of this study routine took about 40 minutes. Students should aim for 2 to 3 sessions like this during the week with at least 1 rest day in between so their brain can actually connect the dots on what they learned. Week 3, let the student drive the tweak. At the end of week 2, ask your child these questions. What worked about the last 2 weeks? What felt hard to stick to? What would make next week feel more manageable? Their answers become their adjustments. Maybe the session needs to be a little shorter. Maybe a different time of day works better. Maybe they want to shift which section they're focusing on. The goal of this is to add slightly more each week, but only once the foundation feels solid. Self-awareness is an executive function skill, and this is exactly where they can practice that. What to watch out for. Now, here's where I see rising juniors struggle with test prep. They don't let their study routine marinate. So the most common pattern is this. Your child has a terrific first session, they feel great about it, and then they don't do test prep again for 2 weeks. A 7-hour cram session is not more productive than 7 shorter sessions spread out over a week. For an ADHD brain, consistency is the actual skill being built here, not just content knowledge. So a student who sits down for 40 focus minutes 2 to 3 times a week will outperform a student who crams for hours once a month. And the deeper issue underneath this inconsistency pattern is that test prep stops feeling fun. One hard session can make the whole thing feel not worth it. So here are 2 things that can help, and I want you to share both of these with your child. Option 1 is habit stacking. They can tie their study session to something they already do and enjoy. These can be right before their night gaming session, right after their favorite show, right after their afternoon snack. The existing habit then becomes the trigger to their study routine. This way, they're not building anything from scratch. Instead, they're attaching something new to something that already works. Option 2 is finding a study buddy. Have your child find one friend who is already doing test prep and ask them to commit to studying at the same time, even if it's just over FaceTime. It doesn't need to be the same subject or the same test. This shared accountability makes a huge difference for students who struggle to sustain motivation all on their own. Hopefully this video helps you understand why traditional test prep didn't work for your child. And you have a real starting point to share with them that doesn't require perfect motivation or perfect conditions, just consistency and the right structure. But here's the thing, knowing what to do and actually following through on it are 2 different skills. And for students with ADHD and learning differences, follow through is often the hardest part. This is not a character flaw on your child. The lack of follow through is actually an executive function challenge, and it is exactly what we work on at EF Tutors. If your rising 11th grader needs someone to build this with them week to week, adjust the plan as they grow, keep them accountable when motivation dips, and make sure the routine actually sticks, our SAT or ACT prep summer track was built for them. We only have 40 spots across all 3 of our summer tracks. Enrollment will close by June 28th or whenever we fill up. If this feels like the right fit for your family, then please check out the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!